My Line. Brought to you by Kellogg's, the folks who bring the best to you each morning. The widest choice of cereals in the forms you like best. Yours from Kellogg's of Battle Creek. Now let's all play What's My Line?
And now let's meet our award-winning panel of What's My Line. First, the delightful star of stage and television, Miss Arlene Francis.
And now the co-producer of a new play opening in New Haven tomorrow night, Sweet Love Remembered, starring Margaret Sullivan. And that is not a plug, it is just identification for Martin Gable.
Having at last gotten identification, I'd like to introduce a woman who needs no identification, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
Thank you, Martin. And I would like to introduce our Random House publisher, Mr. Bennett Cerf.
The format of this show calls for a live panel moderator, and we have a very live one just back from Paris with the most interesting collection of modern art, Mr. John Charles Davis.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's My Line. It's good to be back home again and good to look at the prospect of giving the panel a rough time of it, particularly after Bennett's remark. We'll also have a famous mystery guest before the panel a little bit later in the show, and we'll meet our first challenger after this. And now let's meet our first contestant. Will you come in and sign in, please? Gerald Bain. Right, sir?
Right.
Mr. Bain, where are you from?
Virginia, John.
Virginia? Oh,
Right.
Fine. It's nice to have somebody from Virginia with us in this period just around the beginning of the year. Mr. Bain, may I present the panel? Hello, Mr. Bain. Would you join me over here, Mr. Bain? Do you know how we keep score?
Yes, sir.
All right. In that event, we'll let the folks in the audience here in the theater and those who are looking in at home know exactly what your line is. Panel. We can tell you that Mr. Bain is salaried, and let's begin the general questioning with Bennett Cerf.
Mr. Bain, is there a product involved in what you do?
No, sir.
That's 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you work for a profit-making organization?
No, ma'am.
That's 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Gable.
Do you do your work in Virginia?
No, sir.
3 down and 7 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Doing fine.
We're surrounding him anyway.
Mr. Bain, would you be described as an executive?
This is a very broad term, Miss Dorothy. We would have to agree that in his particular area he does exercise executive responsibility. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Would you like me to withdraw the question?
No, that's fine. If that misleads you enough, if that doesn't mislead you.
Mr. Bain, do you work indoors at all?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you work for any branch of any government?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it a government that exists in the United States?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it the federal government?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever work in Washington?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you say that you worked indoors more than outdoors?
It's about 50-50.
I guess that gives you a no, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know. It gives me a 50-50 yes, too.
The point is well made, Miss Kilgallen. Proceed.
Ask him for questions.
Do you, all right, I'll ask something that's sure to get me a no. Do you ever wear any sort of uniform or other costume than a business suit that would be identifiable if you were wearing it now?
No, ma'am.
That's 4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Sir.
Mr. Bean, did you have anything whatever to do with the recent trip of President Eisenhower abroad?
Yes, sir.
Did you go along on this trip?
Yes, sir.
Were you connected with the presidential party?
Yes, sir.
Did you have anything to do with Mr. Haggerty?
I would say no, sir.
No, I think that because the question is asked
I
in
meant
terms...
with yes. Was it something to do with press relations?
Ah, fine,
No.
Bennett. Now
No,
that you've
sir.
explained that, we'll
Thank
give you
you
the
very
ball. That's
much.
5 to go, Miss Francis.
Would you be considered a bodyguard in any way, Mr. Bain?
Yes,
A
ma'am.
protection officer for the president?
Yes, ma'am.
A Secret Service man, yes.
That's right.
That's right. Well, Jerry said, well, I'm glad you just, Miss Francis didn't say the FBI.
No. Secret Service, I hesitated a moment, but the panel helped me out on that.
Actually, let me clarify things. Mr. Bain is Assistant Chief of the White House Special Detail, and he not only accompanied the President on his journey, but he went with Jim Haggerty, the White House Press Secretary, on the pre-trip, during which all the arrangements for security, etc., were made. And this is, I didn't have a chance to ask you any questions while we were over there. Did you, in your pre-trip with Jim Haggerty, have any idea that you would have the reception in New Delhi, in India,
No,
that
no.
you received?
Not like it was, Your Honor.
Yeah. Had you taken special precautions in anticipation that it would be a big and excited crowd?
We always do that, but this was more than we'd anticipated.
Was there ever a moment of danger, Mr. Bain?
I don't believe so. They were friendly people, thank goodness.
Yes, indeed.
Well, now, you have been on the White House Secret Service detail since my old days in Washington with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Have you ever seen a reception for an American president to compare
Never, John.
with the New Delhi and others there, too, actually?
No, never. I never have.
I
They
must say...
want more now, John.
That's true. There are a lot more people. And, of course, President Roosevelt didn't go out into these areas where
Right.
these vast millions turn out just because it's something to, big and exciting in their lives. And I must say I felt sorry for Jim Rowley, who's an old friend of mine, as Jerry knows. We get into places like, for instance, Casablanca on the way home, and we ride this 16 miles from the airport into Casablanca proper, and about every 2 miles, we run into these Berber horsemen with these big muscle-loading muskets, you know, and their idea of fun is to fire these things and ride beside the president's car. It sounds like a 5-inch naval gun going on. You expect the gun to blow apart, the horse to blow apart, and the Berber to blow
That's
apart,
right.
too. Well, I must say for the Secret Service, and I don't want to gild the lily, but you did a wonderful job under
Thank
the
you,
most
John.
trying circumstances, and I'm sure you and Jim are very proud of your detail, and you should be.
Thank you.
And thanks very much for coming to What's My Line. We can go
Thank you very much.
The Secret Service, by the way, is a branch of the Treasury Department, because we didn't get up to that, did we? Well, now let's see what we can